Welcome, come on in the kitchen. Let's cook Sunday dinner. Now, here I have some oxtails, a specialty in this house. We're going to chat more about them in a couple seconds, but here I have almost 8 pounds. I have a large family though of 8 to feed, so you could definitely scale this down, cut this in half. I'll have all the description, the measurements, all of the ingredients, everything you need in the description box as always. But we're going to get this seasoned up and then we're going to chat. I want to do this a little bit differently this time, so let's talk. Now, I love Sunday dinners. It's just one of those things that bring me comfort. It was always a big thing in my home growing up with my grandparents. Still, most of my parents and grandparents are doing Sunday dinners for the family, big Sunday dinners, enough to put you down for a nap and then you wake up and eat again. Did anybody else do that growing up? Leave me a comment below. But oxtails is something that I actually learned to cook alongside my grandmother, who's no longer with us. But she actually would go to the meat counter because she did not pick hers out of the tray like I got here. And as you can see, I added some paprika here. I wanted to mention that. I just add that for color. I like that rich color of my oxtail. But back to my grandma. So she would always go to the meat counter to get her oxtails cut because she liked the small ones. The big ones, the large ones that I have here, she did not like those. And you would think you'd want the meaty ones, but she just said the meat was too tough. So she would always have them cut it down to her for size. And she used the little small ones when she would make oxtails. Most of the time she did hers as a stew. I'm going to be kind of braising mine in the oven today. So here you'll see me add some browning, some soy sauce. I got a bunch of seasonings going on here. Here's some garlic. I just want to rub this and massage this all throughout the meat. Because once we get it in the oven, it's just gonna go. We're gonna leave it alone there, but we're gonna get it well seasoned on this step. So like I said, we're just gonna give this a good massage, kind of like you would barbecue. I don't know, this step is really relaxing to me, but I'm gonna make sure that every single last one of these is coated, and then we will go ahead and get everything else ready. Now here is this is a 6 to 7 quart Dutch oven here. I'm gonna go ahead and get in. Now you could take the extra step to brown these before if you like. I'm not going to. I added some browning seasoning, which will help me with color here. So that should be okay. And I got a lot of dinner to prepare today, so I'm going to try to get this done as time efficiently as possible. Now, I'm not going to lose the seasoning I got, so the water I'm going to add in with the leftover marinade or seasoning that we had in the bowl here. And here I got a little bit of tomato paste just to give me another depth and layer of flavor. And when this cooks down, it's going to have that long stewed taste. The tomato paste also helps brighten up the flavor a little bit because this is going to be very, very rich and decadent. And here I have a little bit of beef base I'm going to go ahead and add in, but you could definitely use beef broth if you have it. I'm always going to go with what I got. I'm not going to the grocery store when I got stuff at home. We got food at home, so we're just going to go with it. I'm just going to go ahead and give this a good stir, and then we'll get this ready to go. So I got my whisk here just kind of help me get things going along, and then I am going to pour this over the oxtail. Now I have my oven set at 350. I got the oxtails cooking first because it's going to go the longest. Now last thing I want to go ahead and add some aromatics. So I got my peppers and onion, of course, and then like I said, this is going to cook low and slow. So I got that oven at 350. I am going to probably just keep cooking this until everything else is done. I usually go 2 to 3 hours, but I will let you know exactly how long these cook for. Now these are done. I actually let this go about 3 to 4 hours, closer to 4 hours actually, but they are delicious. They are soft and tender, and you do not need anything else. This gravy is delicious on everything, but stay tuned and you'll see what I serve this alongside with. Okay, next up is our chocolate pie. So I am going to start with my pie crust. As you guys know, if you've been here before, I make these in large batches around the holidays and then I freeze them. That way they're ready for Sunday dinner, special occasion, company drop-offs, whatever. I just like to be prepared, so I freeze these and then they're ready for me. I will link the recipe or put an info card somewhere here so that you can check this out, but I'm gonna go ahead and get this rolled out. Like I said, it was frozen, but I left it out at room temperature for about an hour so that it's ready for me to make. Now this chocolate pie is delicious. It is just enough sweetness with the hint of chocolate. Now, do you guys remember when the help was all about Minnie's chocolate pie? That's when we started making this pie, and my family loves it. Now, I mentioned before, we're not huge on desserts, but this is one of them. Again, we kind of like just enough sweetness, not the really, really rich desserts, but this one is great for a Sunday dinner. Again, we got the richness and decadence oxtails, so I just wanted to make just a little light sweetness for dessert, and this pie is perfect. So I got my crust in here. I don't fuss too much with my crust. I like this pan because I can just go around the edges. I don't have to worry about crimping them or anything on this particular pan, so I'm just gonna cut them off around the edges. And then this particular pie crust, it does need to bake ahead of time. So I got my oven preheated because I got the oxtail, and then I'm just gonna poke a few holes in it just so that it won't puff up when I bake it, because like I said, this one does need to pre-bake. And then I don't have any pie weights, but I'm just gonna go old school like my mom used to do. So I got some foil and then some old beans that I'm not gonna use as weights for my pie crust. I'm going to bake this in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes at 350. Okay, so let's get started on the filling. So I got an egg here. I'm gonna go ahead and beat this up just a little bit to help get this going. And then, like I said, the ingredients here are very simple. I got 1.5 cups of sugar, some evaporated milk. This is just one of those staples that I keep on hand. Seriously, if you have a well-stocked pantry, you really could pull this pie together in no time. Got a little bit of vanilla going in, some butter, and then the last thing I'm just going to add is the chocolate part of it, which is this one unsweetened cocoa powder. So after a good mix, this is going to go into my pie shell that I pre-baked. It's already been cooled, and it will bake in the oven. It's at 350. Like I said, it's going to bake about 45 minutes or until it is set. Okay, we're gonna start on the cabbage. I got some butter that I've melted in the pan here. I'm adding in some sausage. Today I have a beef sausage, but you could actually do smoked sausage or andouille. Sometimes I do that, and usually I do it in bacon fat, but today I just have the butter and the sausage. So I'm gonna brown this up, get some of that flavor before we get the cabbage and the rest of the vegetables in. All right, so my onions have been sauteed for just a few minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and get the garlic in. A couple cloves here. As always, I'm gonna list everything for you in the description box. Now, today I'm gonna do black eyed peas that have been soaked, that were dried. But if you look on my channel, and I'll be sure to link it, I do also have a recipe for fresh black eyed peas if you wanna try that. Now here I have jalapeno that I have sliced. I left the seeds in because I like the heat, but you definitely could seed it or omit it altogether. But I do like the flavor of the jalapeno with the sweetness of the black eyed peas. So that's fine, ready to go now. We're gonna go ahead and get in a pound of turkey necks. You can use whatever seasoning meat you like here, ham hock or turkey wing. I'm gonna go ahead and throw in my bay leaf as well. All right, I'm gonna get in a pound of black eyed peas that I've soaked and drained, and then some chicken broth, just enough to cover. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and, you know what, I'm gonna bring this up to a simmer, but before I do, I'm gonna go ahead and add some seasoning salt now, and I'll let you know how much I use, but it'll also be just to taste here. Right, so I'm gonna go in with just a little bit of Cajun seasoning or Creole seasoning. All right, and then these are, put the lid on it and let these cook until they're tender. Now that the sausage has gotten browned up, I'm gonna go ahead and add in an onion. Actually, this is 2 small onions, but I am doing a lot of cabbage today. And cabbage, like most greens, it cooks down a lot. So for my family of 8, I do 2 small heads of cabbage. But you can also just half in this recipe and do it one. So I'm not even gonna go a full saute on these onions. I'm gonna go ahead and just get the cabbage in. So I have my cabbage chopped to kind of a small, not too small, chop here. And that's usually about the size that I like. And like I said, this is 2 small to medium sized heads of cabbage. So it's all not gonna fit at one time. But what I like to do is go ahead and toss this around in my butter and my sausage and onion, and then add another layer. And I can add most of it, looks like. I'm gonna go ahead and add my seasonings at this time. I'm gonna do black pepper is probably one of the most ingredients, the most important ingredients to my cabbage. Fresh cracked black pepper. When I first asked my grandmother for this recipe, you know, she was a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but she made sure to emphasize the black pepper. So I do go heavy on it here on my recipe, but it tastes really, really nice. It's a good balance of flavors with the cabbage. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of Cajun seasoning, Creole seasoning. I'll taste it later on to see if I need to add any more, but that's good for now. Now, what I'm not going to do just yet, I'm not gonna add any liquid to this. I'm gonna let it cook down, let the water from the cabbage cook some first, so I can get an idea of how much liquid I want to add. One thing I think most people do is add a little bit too much water to their cabbage, and cabbage already has a lot of water, and so they end up with this either undercooked watery mess or a mushy watery mess, so we don't want to do that. So I'm going to let it cook for a little bit before adding any liquid. I'll just get my lid on and let this hang out over medium heat. This has been going for about 15 minutes, and as you can see, it has cooked down a lot. I'm just coming in and moving around the cabbage that's at the bottom and moving it to the top. Now here I am gonna go ahead and add my liquid, this braised cabbage. So from here, I'm going to add a little bit of chicken broth. And then, of course, like I said, I go heavy on the pepper. I'm gonna add a little bit more black pepper. And I'm going to add a little bit of sugar. Now, I usually don't add sugar to my greens, but I do like to counteract the bitterness of the cabbage just a little bit in this recipe only. So just a little bit, not enough to make it sweet. So I'm gonna give this a good stir and then let this braise in the liquid until it cooks down. All right, so my cabbage actually cooked for about 30 to 40 minutes. This is the consistency I like it. That's always your preference. I like it to have just a little bit of bite. The last thing I'm gonna do is just hit this with a touch, like maybe a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And that is it. It's ready to serve. All right. Let's do this macaroni and cheese. So here I have some water and chicken base. You could do chicken broth if you have it. You also could do about 4 tablespoons of chicken bouillon. Today I had chicken base, so I used 4 tablespoons of that. And I'm gonna get in somewhere between 16 to 24 ounces of macaroni and cheese. It just depends on how many people you're feeding. Doing a little more than half of the 32-ounce package. Okay, and then I'm just gonna help this along. I also am only gonna boil these for about 6 to 8 minutes because it's going to bake a while in my macaroni. I don't want it overcooked. So let's set the timer. And then once I get this drained, we'll mix everything together. All right, let's finish up this macaroni. So I drained the pasta and I rinsed it with cold water so that it won't stick, number one, and also so that it won't be hot and curdle that custard that we have to add to it. So I'm gonna do a stick of butter that I have softened. And this is going to stay creamy by all of these steps, keeping those noodles not from sticking together. That way the custard goes all throughout it. And then the butter kind of just helps that process along as well. All right. Now I want to go ahead and add the cheeses. I like to do a cup of Parmesan always with my macaroni and cheese. I like the nuttiness of Parmesan, but you could use any mixture of these that you like. And then I have some mozzarella just for that cheese pool. And then I have some sharp cheddar. All right. The last thing I'm going to add at this stage is going to be about a cup of sour cream. We're adding all the creamy elements to this one. Sometimes I like to switch it up. Sometimes I like a stovetop mac. Sometimes I like a creamy macaroni and cheese. Sometimes I like it more cheesy than creamy. So it's good to have a lot of different macaroni and cheese recipes in your repertoire. That way you can switch up the flavors, make it seem like something different. It's not the same old thing every time. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this in my pan. Now here I have a 9 by 13 inch pan that I have already buttered.
And then I'm gonna go ahead and pour on that custard we made earlier. So I'm gonna pour it in, give it a little stir, and then pour the rest. I want to make sure everything comes in contact with that custard. Alright, and this is where I go for it. Here I have a mild cheddar. Alright, that's it. This goes in a 350-degree oven for about 30 to 45 minutes.
My completed Sunday meal. Thank you so much for hanging out in the kitchen with me today. It's been amazing. Here's that pie. Now all I did is just sprinkle a little bit of powdered sugar for flavor and presentation, of course, but I'm telling you, this is the food for your soul for sure.